Hi, this is Monica Grajales from Z&G Cruises and Retreats, and I will be interviewing Daniella Gould. She is a yogi in established in Puerto Rico, and she is hosting a parenting yoga retreat. So let's get started with Daniella. Hi, Daniella. How are you doing?
Hello, I'm doing well, thank you. Thank you for chatting with me today.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
it.
You're welcome. Let's get started. So, a parenting yoga retreat. What's the purpose of this retreat?
Okay, so it's twofold, really. The first purpose is for parents who deserve a break, right? Most of the time for parents, they are working 24/7 on call for their families. And, you know, we're overworked, we're exhausted, we're required to do so much for our families, and we always put ourselves last. And actually, in order to be able to give back most effectively to our families, we have to take a break. We have to have a breather. We have to give ourselves some space so that we can then give back to our families in the most appropriate way, in a calm, collective, or calm, compassionate, patient kind of a way. So that's the first purpose of the retreat. The second purpose of the retreat is to offer parents a new perspective on parenting. And so I find it interesting that for most jobs, we need to get education, take exams, but for parenting, which is probably the most difficult job in the world, or it's
And
up
there's
there
no
anyway.
education for that. There's no education.
You're just expected to know what to do,
Yeah,
right?
you don't get trained for that. There is no training.
Exactly. So this is an opportunity to get a different perspective on parenting and to really, to reflect on our own childhoods and see what happened. What did we experience in our childhood? Which of our needs got met and which ones didn't get met? And and when we find which needs didn't get met, we also find that quite often we're still trying to get those needs met in our adult lives. And so that's why we fall into these patterns or these dysfunctional patterns in our adult lives, because we're still trying to get those needs met. So once we can reflect on our own childhoods and we can work on healing ourselves, we can work on learning how to support ourselves to get our needs met, then it's easier for us to show up for our families in the ways that we want to parent, because quite often we don't want to yell, we don't want to be lose our patience, we don't want to get frustrated, but they just happen unconsciously a lot of the time. And so when we're given this once we're given this guidance and tools to help us, we've got much more opportunity to show up as the calm, compassionate parents we want to be.
All right, so we assume this is for parents, but for whom is this retreat especially set up for? I know it's parents, but is there anything else that you want to add to that?
Well, people ask me that a lot. And what I love about the content of my retreat is it's actually applicable for parents with children of any age. So it can be babies, it can be children or toddlers, it can be tweens or teenagers or even adult children. The content of this retreat is actually applicable to everybody, and it can even improve your relationship, with your partner. Ooh. So, and with yourself, right? The most important thing is, first of all, improving our relationship with ourselves, and then with the family as well. So, I'd say it's for absolutely any parent, and also for parents to be, because I wish that I had a course like this or a retreat like this to get a perspective before I had my son. And when I'll talk about this a little bit later, most probably it will come up, but I did struggle a lot when my son was younger. So if this is the sort of retreat that I wished I had, or that somebody had offered me as a new parent, or even anywhere in those first years when I was just really having a hard time. So it's, yeah.
All right. So how does yoga help with parenting skills?
Well, so lots of people ask me, well, what does parenting have to do with yoga? And my answer is everything, actually. But I'm biased. So what I find is that yoga teaches us that we cannot change other people. We can only change ourselves. And so when we recognize that it's not our children's behavior that needs to change, but how we actually react to their behavior, that's key. It's a real game changer. So what I mean is that the way that we react when our children are triggering us or behaving badly, we often escalate things with our children. We bring it, and so we end up having these crazy power struggles. We start punishing and threatening and yelling, and everybody's nervous system is on edge, and none of us are able to actually come calmly to the situation and find a good resolution. And instead of bringing us together, it creates a lot of disconnection. And that is sort of the root of why parenting, often is so challenging, because our reactivity causes their reactivity, and then we're all being reactive. So parenting is a really wonderful way for teaching us, first of all, to pause, right? There's no need to react right away. There really isn't, unless it's an emergency, of course, but most of the time we can pause. So the more we can remove ourselves from the situation and pause and find a way to focus on ourselves and calm ourselves down first, so that we're able to respond in a calm and compassionate way, it changes everything. Right? So yoga is made up of many different parts. It's made up of yoga philosophy, which is really helpful to teach us about parenting, but it's also made up of the yoga movement, which we traditionally think of yoga. We've also got the breath, and we've got meditation. So all of these different aspects can help us to calm our nervous systems, right? Because the first thing is, when we're triggered, it's not that we're triggered by our children's behavior, it's actually our experiences of when we were children and what happened to us when our needs weren't being met in those moments. So when we recognize that actually we need to go internally and reflect and soothe ourselves and find compassion for ourselves in those moments first, it is so much easier then to find acceptance for our children and their behavior. They're just children. They're going to behave loudly and in a difficult way.
They're going to be children.
They're just children. So once we can calm ourselves and find that acceptance of ourselves and our experiences, we're also more able to find acceptance of our children and their experiences.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So do you have to know yoga? Do you have to practice yoga to be part of this retreat?
No, absolutely not. You can be a complete beginner. You can never have done yoga before. You can think yoga is really weird, or maybe you've tried it and didn't like it. It's all good. It's a new way of doing it. So a lot of what we'll work on in the workshops is yoga philosophy. So we're not actually moving the whole time and doing the physical practice of yoga, but we will also use a physical practice of yoga to practice the yoga philosophy concepts. We'll also use the connection with the breath to calm ourselves down and find a pause, and to find ways to calm our own nervous system, and also meditation, which again, people often think that they failed at, or that they don't like, or it's not for them. But actually, I teach a meditation where it's just finding acceptance for ourselves as we are. And it's uncomfortable sometimes, but all we're doing, it's not about letting our minds go blank, right? There's many people meditate, and that's not necessarily what happens for most of us, right? So most of us think, oh, we're failing. But actually, it's not about what happens, about trying to create this blankness in the mind. What it's about is just being with ourselves and finding acceptance for ourselves without needing to run away from ourselves. And so we'll practice some of those techniques. And when we can learn how to use yoga to calm ourselves, to find acceptance for ourselves, that is so powerful in parenting.
I can imagine. I'm not a parent, but I'm feeling it.
Yeah, thank you.
So what is your background and what got you interested in working with teaching parenting skills through yoga?
Okay, well, I've practiced yoga for over 30 years, but as I mentioned, I was struggling when my son was younger. I really struggled with parenting. Before I had him, of course, I thought I was going to be a wonderful parent, like most of us do. But then I had him, and it was so difficult, right? He would have these enormous, crazy tantrums and hit and kick me, and I would be very judgmental and controlling and very critical. We'd have a lot of power struggles and arguments, and it just was a really uncomfortable time in my life. And I was really shocked at myself because I do a lot. I've done a lot of things, and I've always been fairly successful when I put my mind to it. But it just wasn't working, and I felt so frustrated and disappointed in myself, honestly, because I wasn't parenting in the way that I wanted. Anyway, one day I started reading this book about how to communicate, but it was from a perspective of Buddhism, and it just gave me the direction to just pause. Instead of saying the things I normally said when he was emotional and about to go into a tantrum or already in a tantrum, it just suggested just pause and don't say anything, just step back. And that tiny change, so I went and did that tiny change, and I found that my son's tantrum, instead of being hours in length, got teeny tiny and very short, and no violence at all. And then they just stopped. Right. Oh. So I found, I'd always wondered what's wrong with him. How do I resolve this problem that he has? And then this was the beginning of me working out, well, actually, it's not necessarily to do with his behavior. It's actually to do with how I show up as a parent. And so it's difficult, right? Because it's easier to say, oh, let's solve their problem and try and see it as their issue. But once we look inwards and we go internally, it changes things completely. So from there, I started studying psychology. I just took psychology courses. I started to heal myself. So the experiences I had had as a child, which then showed up in my parenting. I also took loads of parenting courses and tried to understand what was all going on. And then I took all of that and I applied it to yoga. I applied yoga to it. And I created my own sort of training that I did. And I found it amazing. I went from a stage where I felt very unconfident as a parent, very disheartened, really struggling, to becoming a really confident parent where I was so connected with my son and where I feel like, I feel that things go much more smoothly, right? Of course, there's still ups and downs and there's still challenges, but it's learning how to, if you make a mistake, which is normal, it's finding self-acceptance for making a mistake, for yelling or whatever it is, and finding ways to take responsibility for your behavior. So apologizing and in a way that makes sense for our children. Right. So I felt like this rubric or this way of applying the 8 limbs of yoga, which is a really ancient yoga philosophy, right, to parenting, it completely transformed my life as a person, with my relationship with myself, with my family. And so I was so excited by it. I first started thinking, this was more than 4 years ago. I thought, well, I'll just try and see whether other people are interested in it. So I started teaching it to others, and I had such great feedback from them about how it impacted their families that I continued to do it. So, awesome. Yeah, so I feel really excited. This is one of the things that I feel so enthusiastic and excited about because I feel like it really makes a difference to people's lives.
Definitely, definitely. So what does this yoga include? What does this, I'm sorry, what does this yoga retreat include?
Sure. Well, the retreat center is called Casa Grande. It's one of my favorite places to teach retreats, and it's nestled in the beautiful valley, in a beautiful valley in the stunning tropical mountains of Utuado, which is in central Puerto Rico. And then there's a river that runs alongside the property with a
Beautiful.
waterfall. It's just gorgeous. So you, first of all, you get the chance to be in just stunning place with a beautiful, with beautiful, surrounded by beautiful nature. There's a salt swimming pool there.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's lovely. There's just it's just such a beautiful place, and it really lifts any stress from your shoulders by just setting foot there. But then included in the retreat, there's some casitas. So the accommodation is in casitas, so houses that are on stilts, but they're really comfortable. So you've got either, a single occupancy or double occupancy, really comfortable beds. They're lovely. And then each room has got an ensuite bathroom. And each room also has like a little private balcony with a hammock, just so you can soak up nature. So first of all, you get that. Then you also get all your meals and snacks and juices. They're all provided. It's all plant-based, so it's all vegan, but really delicious. Even people who are not vegan, they really enjoy it. And it's mainly farm to table as well. And it's, and as parents, not having to cook for ourselves and being, waited on and just, pampered is lovely. So we've got that. And then there's a studio space, so where we'll do the workshops. So we'll do parenting workshops, really practical. The information is so practical and applicable to our lives as parents, and so easy to understand. And then we will also be doing some yoga, some meditation, some breathing and breath work to help support the journey. Yeah.
So it's not only the class, the course itself, but it's nature and it's nutritional and it's just encompassing the whole being.
Exactly. And a couple of other things, you obviously get to be in a community of other parents. So I think sometimes, we feel very alone as parents, and sometimes really feeling less alone in our struggles is amazing. And then after the retreat, there's a follow-up Zoom call that's also included. Oh. So then we can get together and we can discuss where we've had successes since the retreat, where we're still struggling. We can ask questions, we can brainstorm solutions, we can discuss all that. So it's a nice little kind of post-retreat support as well that's built in.
That's excellent. So what should people expect to leave with once the retreat is over?
Okay,
once
excellent.
Immediately the retreat is over, they go home, what should they expect?
Well, first of all, I think that, as I just mentioned, it's feeling less alone in our struggles as parents and really recognizing that these challenges are universal. We're also going to get some practical tools to really help to calm our nervous systems and help us to pause before we respond in future, right? So that will, when next time when we have our children acting up or behaving badly or whatever's going on, or they're triggering us, you might still be reactive, that's okay, but we're more aware about it. We might still react on occasion, but hopefully we will, and most likely we will be less reactive, right? And more often than not, we should be able to come up with calm ways to respond. We'll also get a new perspective on our children's needs. So do they feel safe, seen, soothed, and secure? And we'll discuss what that all means, and then when we have an understanding of what our children actually need, we can also understand when they behave badly, Why is that? What is that? What are they trying to get? Or, what do they need in those moments? And then we can also reflect on our own, we'll already have the tools to reflect on our own childhoods and see whether our needs were safe, seen, soothed, and secure, or whether we felt that we were those things as a child. And we will have the tools to be able to comfort ourselves or support ourselves in adult life when our needs are still not being met in those ways. We can then give ourselves that support. And then we will also have more tools to meet our children's needs, and we will have a more supportive relationship with ourselves, which will allow us to be more supportive with our family members. And I think there's other very specific things. So, for example, we'll have clear guidance on how to deal with our children's emotions when they're having big feelings, because I think sometimes we don't really understand what to do when our kids are emotional, right? Also, we'll have more tools when things are difficult to find more joy and play in our family lives, to try to dissipate some of the challenges that we experience. And then that also leads to more connection. And I think then also we will find more confidence. We'll be more confident as parents coming out of this retreat with more clear ideas about how to support ourselves, how to support our children. And of course, we'll have the community of other parents who we can reach out to and connect with going forward as well. So that's probably just a few of the benefits of the retreat, but I really think that there's a lot that people can expect to come away with.
I highly recommend this retreat. Every parent needs it. I'm not a parent, but I have nephews and nieces, and I've seen my siblings and my cousins struggling also with their children. So it is something that is very much needed. So thank you so much for providing this space. It's wonderful. So people might be wondering what a travel agent has to do with this parenting retreat. So I am certified as a wellness travel advisor, and I make sure that if someone wants to find a retreat for their well-being, be it parenting or nutrition or anything related to wellness, that I make those arrangements for you. This one in particular is one that interests me very much because it's so much needed. A lot of times people go to retreats, to improve themselves, but it's very just for our own. This particular retreat is not just for your own, but it's also for the community, for the family, for everyone. Everyone will benefit. Everyone in the family will benefit just from one or two people going to this retreat. So it's wonderful. One of the things that I wanted to mention, how I can help you make this trip to Puerto Rico. I'm going to share my screen with you. So I can help you with pre and or post retreat options. So how does that work? Let me go to the next one. So I can help you with airfare, airport transfers through Uber or private driver, hotel accommodations, car rental or pickup from hotel. So anything that has to do with the transportation and hotel, I can help you with. Now you may be wondering why a hotel when you have a retreat? Well, sometimes you may want to arrive the night or the day before of the retreat, so that you can settle yourself. Some people prefer to come a few days before the retreat or stay a few days later after the retreat. And for that, I can arrange some tours like to El Yunque Rainforest, kayaking at the bioluminescent bay, zip lining, Camuy Caves, San Juan walking tours, snorkeling, horseback riding. So there are a lot of activities that we can do in Puerto Rico before or after the retreat. But that is up to you. If you want to join this retreat, contact me at zngcruisesandretreats@gmail.com or at sorry, the telephone number is 813 586 3656. And I will make sure that you connect with Daniella so that you can register for this retreat. This retreat is when?
So it's February 23rd to 25th. So it's two nights. Yeah.
It's 2 nights. It's just a weekend. It's fairly easy to get there. We arrange the transportation for you. Again, we'll arrange the hotel for the night before. And yeah, that was it. I will just make sure that you connect with Daniella so that you can enjoy and improve your family life with this retreat.
Thank you so much, Monica.
You're welcome, and I hope you have a great evening. Take care.
Thank
you for
you.
having me.
Thank you. You too as well. Take care.
Bye-bye.